Have you ever noticed this strange, painful contradiction? You try to be good, polite, reasonable, and somehow the world pushes harder against you, questions you, tests you, disrespects you. And then you see someone else, quieter, colder, unbothered, and people step aside. They do not argue, they do not challenge, they feel something, and they hesitate. What if confidence was never about being loud, positive, or impressive? What if real confidence is something darker, calmer, and far more unsettling? Today, I will show you how confidence actually works at the psychological level, and how to build a presence so stable, so grounded, that it silently terrifies people. This is Psychology Unlocked. I am Dr. Adam. If this touches something real inside you, comment your city and stay with me. Now listen carefully, slowly, because this is not motivation. This is psychology. Most people misunderstand confidence because they confuse it with performance. They think confidence is posture, voice, eye contact, affirmations, smiling at the right moment. Those are behaviors. And behaviors without inner alignment are fragile. People sense the gap, even if they cannot explain it. At the psychological core, confidence is not something you show. It is something you no longer need to prove. And the human nervous system is exquisitely sensitive to that difference. When you walk into a room needing approval, needing validation, needing agreement, your body leaks information. Micro-tensions, over-explaining, unnecessary friendliness, a slight rush in speech, a subtle anxiety beneath your words. People may not consciously notice it, but their brain does. And unconsciously, they place you lower in the hierarchy. This is where the ruthless clarity of Machiavelli becomes uncomfortable but accurate. Power, he observed, does not come from appearing virtuous. It comes from being internally independent of the reactions of others. Confidence that unsettles people begins the moment you stop negotiating your inner state with the external world. Let me say that again, slower. You stop negotiating your inner state with the external world. Most adults never do this. They outsource their emotional stability to bosses, to partners, to social approval, to being liked. And because of that, they are always slightly afraid. The terrifying confidence we are talking about is built on one internal decision, a decision that feels small, but rewires everything. I do not need to be understood. The moment that sentence becomes true inside you, not spoken, not performed, but true, your nervous system changes, your breathing slows, your reactions delay, your face relaxes in a way that cannot be faked, and people feel it. Notice how insecure people rush to explain themselves. Notice how dominant individuals let silence do the work. This is not personality. This is psychological positioning. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is confidence without ornament. When someone challenges you and you respond immediately, emotionally, defensively, you reveal that they touched something fragile. When someone challenges you and you pause, not theatrically, not arrogantly, just calmly, their brain starts filling the silence with uncertainty. Did I misjudge him? Did I overstep? Does he know something I don't? This is where fear quietly begins. Confidence that frightens people is rooted in emotional containment. You feel anger, but you do not leak it. You feel disagreement, but you do not rush to correct. You feel power, but you do not display it. And paradoxically, that restraint amplifies it. Here is the uncomfortable psychological truth. The more you need to show confidence, the less you have. True confidence is subtractive. You remove reactions. You remove explanations. You remove unnecessary words. You do not chase respect. You behave as if respect is optional, because internally, it is. People are deeply unsettled by this. Why? Because humans are wired to test boundaries, and when they cannot find emotional leverage, when there is nothing to hook into, their brain categorizes you as dangerous, not violent, unpredictable. And unpredictability is the oldest form of power. This is why calm individuals dominate chaotic ones. This is why emotionally disciplined people rise quietly. This is why the man who speaks last often controls the room. Confidence is not volume, it is gravity. Now, here is where most people fail. They try to copy the external behaviors without building the internal structure. They try to be silent while still emotionally reactive. They try to be calm while internally desperate. And it does not work, because confidence is not an act. It is a consequence of something deeper, something colder, something more honest. You must become psychologically willing to lose. Lose approval, lose validation, lose relationships that depend on your compliance. This does not mean becoming cruel. It means becoming unreachable by manipulation. Once you truly accept, I may lose this person, this job, this image, and I will remain intact. Your posture changes without effort. Your voice lowers naturally. Your eyes stop scanning for reassurance, and people notice. They may not like you more, but they will respect you. And some will fear you, because you are no longer controllable. This is the first layer of terrifying confidence. Internal independence. Not indifference, not arrogance. Independence. And from this point forward, psychology stops being about self-improvement and starts becoming about self-possession. Once internal independence is established, something subtle begins to happen. Your emotional reactions slow down, not because you are suppressing them, but because they no longer control you. This is where confidence stops being a mindset and becomes a physiological state. Most people live in constant micro-reactivity. A comment shifts their mood. A tone of voice provokes tension. A delay in response creates anxiety. Their nervous system is always on standby, scanning for threat, rejection, or approval. And a nervous system like that cannot project authority. Confidence that intimidates people is built on nervous system dominance. In psychology, the calm nervous system leads, the reactive nervous system follows. You have seen this dynamic without realizing it. In conversations, in meetings, in relationships. The person who is most emotionally regulated sets the tempo. This is why emotional control is not a moral virtue. It is a strategic advantage. And this is exactly where Niccolo Machiavelli was so brutally honest. He understood that power belongs to the individual who can observe emotions without obeying them. Most adults think emotional control means repression. It does not. Repression creates tension. Control creates space. You feel the emotion fully, but you do not let it escape prematurely. You let it settle. You decide when, if ever, it is expressed. This alone changes how people perceive you. Why? Because emotional leakage is information. When you react instantly, you reveal your triggers. When you over-explain, you reveal insecurity. When you defend yourself, you reveal doubt. And people, unconsciously, catalogue these weaknesses. Terrifying confidence removes access. You stop giving people emotional data for free. Imagine speaking and leaving sentences unfinished. Pausing, not for effect, but because you are not rushed. Letting silence stretch slightly longer than comfortable. This silence forces the other person's mind to work. They fill the gap with assumptions, often unfavorable ones, about their own position. Silence shifts power. The confident individual does not rush to resolve discomfort. The insecure one always does. This is why people with deep confidence are often misunderstood. They are called cold, detached, distant. But the truth is simpler. They are not emotionally accessible on demand. Accessibility is mistaken for kindness. But psychologically, it lowers perceived value. When you are always available, always responsive, always accommodating, you teach others that your time and emotional energy are cheap. Confidence that frightens people redefines availability. You are present, but not at their disposal. This creates a quiet tension, a question mark in the other person's mind. Why does he not react like others? Why does he not chase closure? Why does he seem unaffected? That uncertainty breeds respect, and sometimes fear. Here is another truth that most self-help psychology avoids. People do not respect what they can emotionally control. If they can upset you easily, they feel superior. If they can guilt you, they feel powerful. If they can provoke you, they feel dominant. The moment they cannot, the dynamic reverses. And this reversal does not require aggression. It requires emotional opacity. You do not explain your boundaries. You enforce them quietly. You do not argue your standards. You live by them, even when it costs you. This is where confidence becomes dangerous, because you are no longer predictable. Predictability comforts people. Unpredictability unsettles them. When your reactions are inconsistent with emotional manipulation, people lose their leverage. And when people lose leverage, they become cautious. This is why confident individuals often attract projection. Others label them arrogant, intimidating, unapproachable. These are defense mechanisms. The human mind fears what it cannot influence. And this is the paradox. The more you stop trying to be liked, the more weight your presence carries. Not because you are hostile, but because you are self-contained. Self-contained people do not seek permission. They do not ask for emotional validation. They do not negotiate their worth. They simply exist, firmly, and the world responds accordingly. This level of confidence is not loud. It does not dominate conversations. It does not need constant assertion. It speaks rarely, and when it does, people listen, because restraint creates credibility. In psychology, the individual who can tolerate tension controls the interaction. You tolerate silence. You tolerate misunderstanding. You tolerate disapproval. And by tolerating these, you transcend them. This is the second layer of terrifying confidence. Emotional containment, nervous system mastery, and the willingness to let others feel uncomfortable without rushing to save them. At this stage, something irreversible begins to form. Your confidence is no longer reactive, it becomes structural. This is where most people cannot follow you, because now, confidence is not about emotions at all. It is about identity. In psychology, identity is the deepest operating system of the mind. Behaviors change easily, habits take time. Identity resists force, and terrifying confidence is the byproduct of an identity that does not ask permission to exist. Most adults live with a fragile identity. They define themselves through roles: employee, partner, friend, good person. Roles are conditional, and anything conditional can be threatened. This is why criticism hurts, why rejection destabilizes, why disrespect feels personal. Your identity is being negotiated externally. The moment you internalize this truth, something sharpens inside you. If my identity depends on roles, then I am always replaceable. Confidence that frightens people begins when you detach identity from role. You stop saying, "I am confident when things go well." You start becoming someone who remains intact, regardless of outcome. This is not optimism. This is psychological sovereignty. You no longer ask, "How do I appear?" You ask, "Am I aligned with my own standards?" And here, Machiavelli becomes deeply uncomfortable for modern psychology, because he understood something we prefer to avoid. Respect does not come from being morally correct. It comes from being internally coherent. When your words, actions, boundaries, and silence all come from the same internal source, people feel it. There is no contradiction to exploit, no emotional crack to enter. You become solid, and solidity unsettles people who are fragmented. Most individuals live divided lives. They think one thing, say another, do a third. This creates constant internal noise, and noisy people cannot intimidate anyone. Terrifying confidence is quiet because it is integrated. You do not explain yourself because there is nothing to reconcile. You do not justify your decisions because they are already decided internally. This is why explanation is often a sign of weakness. Explaining means seeking agreement. Agreement means dependence. The confident individual does not need agreement to proceed. They move and let the world adjust. Now, here is the part that most people resist, because it feels cold. You must become willing to disappoint. Disappoint expectations. Disappoint projections. Disappoint the version of you others prefer. This does not mean being cruel. It means refusing to live as a psychological hostage. Many adults are trapped by invisible contracts. Be nice. Be available. Be consistent. Be who you were. Confidence breaks these contracts quietly. You change without announcement. You withdraw without drama. You say no without apology. And people panic because your predictability was their sense of control. This is where fear emerges. Not fear of harm, fear of loss of influence. The human mind fears individuals it cannot guilt, shame, or pressure. When emotional leverage disappears, respect rushes in to replace it. This is why people start watching you more closely, listening more carefully, measuring their words. They feel the shift, even if they deny it. Your confidence now operates beneath language. It is in your pacing, your stillness, your refusal to fill space unnecessarily. You are no longer reacting to the environment. The environment reacts to you. And this is not dominance through force. It is dominance through internal authority. Authority is not claimed. It is assumed. People sense when someone believes they have the right to exist as they are, without apology, without performance. This belief cannot be faked. It is built through repeated acts of self-loyalty. Every time you choose discomfort over self-betrayal, confidence accumulates. Every time you hold a boundary instead of explaining it, confidence hardens. Every time you let someone misunderstand you, confidence deepens. And slowly, something dangerous forms. You stop needing to be right. Needing to be right is insecurity disguised as intelligence. The confident individual does not correct everyone. They let others reveal themselves. They observe. They wait. They respond only when necessary. And this restraint unnerves people because they are used to emotional feedback. Agreement, resistance, conflict, but you offer none. You are not passive. You are selective. Selectivity is power. At this level, confidence no longer feels emotional. It feels factual. I am who I am. I move how I move. You may stay. You may leave. Either way, I remain. This is the third layer of terrifying confidence. Identity independence, internal authority, and the willingness to let others lose access to you permanently. At the final stage, confidence no longer feels like confidence. It feels like inevitability. Not destiny, not arrogance. Inevitability. This is where people stop testing you, because tests require hope. And something in your presence quietly removes it. By now, your confidence is not emotional, behavioral, or even identity-based. It is existential. You have accepted something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Loss. Loss of approval, loss of certainty, loss of belonging. And because you have already paid that price internally, no one can threaten you with it. This is the deepest psychological shift of all. Fear only works when there is something left to take. When you are no longer protecting an image, when you are no longer defending a narrative, when you are no longer attached to how you are perceived, fear loses its currency. And people feel that immediately. They sense that pressure does not move you, that shame does not bend you, that praise does not buy you. You are not rebellious. You are not oppositional. You are unavailable to influence. In psychology, this is the highest form of autonomy, and it terrifies people, quietly. Because most social power is built on emotional leverage, approval, rejection, belonging. When those levers no longer work on you, the system breaks. This is why deeply confident individuals are often isolated, not because they are unlikable, but because proximity to them forces self-confrontation. People feel smaller next to someone who is internally complete, not judged, exposed. And exposure creates discomfort. You'll notice something strange at this level. People will either gravitate toward you or avoid you entirely. There is rarely neutrality. Your presence becomes clarified. It shows others who they are not ready to be. This is why Machiavelli remains misunderstood. He was not teaching cruelty. He was describing reality without anesthetic. Not because they dominate, but because they cannot be dominated. This is the final psychological inversion. You do not seek control. Control seeks you. and fails. Your confidence now expresses itself through restraint. You speak less. You reveal less. You promise nothing. And when you commit, you do so completely. There is no volatility in you anymore. No emotional spikes. No dramatic reactions. Your calm becomes unsettling. In moments of conflict, you are still. In moments of praise, you are unchanged. In moments of loss, you are grounded. This consistency confuses people because they are used to managing others through emotion, but emotion no longer manages you. This is why people describe this kind of confidence as intimidating, not because it threatens them, but because it cannot be reached. They cannot negotiate with it. They cannot rush it. They cannot destabilize it. It simply exists. And existence without need is power. At this level, you stop trying to improve yourself constantly. You refine, you subtract, you simplify. You choose environments that match your nervous system. You leave conversations that drain it. You walk away sooner and without explanation. You are not proving anything anymore. You are preserving something, your internal order. And that order radiates outward. People sense that you are not here to convince, not here to impress, not here to belong. You are here because you chose to be. And choice is the foundation of authority. This is the final form of confidence, the kind that does not announce itself, the kind that does not need reinforcement, the kind that makes people lower their voice slightly, choose their words more carefully, and feel something they cannot name: respect, distance, and a quiet unease, because they know you cannot be moved. This is Psychology Unlocked. I am Dr. Adam, and if you understand this, truly understand it, you will never need to ask how to be confident again.